Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In our previous episode, Rimuru's confident finishing move, the imaginary blade, was blocked by Spectre Lord Feldway, leading to a stalemate in their battle. Meanwhile, Benimaru was struggling against the great sorcerer Emperor Jahil, facing a tough fight. With the overwhelming disadvantage, Rimuru decided to stall for time, waiting for reinforcements. On another front, Ranga successfully completed the task assigned by Rimuru, repelling Vega and saving Leon's subordinates, as well as the demon peers under Rain and Misery. In this episode, we will take a brief look at Kumara and Souei's respective battles, and we will see how Rimuru managed to push back Feldway and his forces, and how the lucky Vega undergoes another evolution. Additionally, Mai Furuki will showcase her incredible skills. Let's get started. Kumara's opponent was the holder of Ultimate Enchantment, Lord of Martial Creation, Orca-Aria. For those who have forgotten Orca-Aria, you can revisit episode 82. Before Kumara arrived, Orca-Aria had already overwhelmed Leon's subordinates, the Red Knight Fran and the Yellow Knight Kizona, leaving them utterly defenseless. This was understandable, considering Orca-Aria held the ultimate enchantment. Killing her opponents would have been a moment's task for Orca-Aria, but the two knights were still alive only because Orca-Aria was testing her newly acquired powers. The ultimate enchantment Lord of Martial Creation allowed her to materialize various mythical-grade weapons and equipment. Orca-Aria had successively conjured a mace, a morning star, a short sword, and a trident, toying with Leon's two knights as a human would toy with ants. Of course, at the critical moment when Orca-Aria grew bored and decided to kill the two knights, Kumara appeared and shielded them. After her previous battle with Carrion and Frey, Kumara's combat prowess had significantly improved, allowing her to calmly analyze the situation during this fight. Both Kumara and Orca-Aria had existence points close to 2 million. However, existence points were just one factor. Despite gaining a powerful physique in the ultimate enchantment, Orca-Aria's combat experience remained at the human level. In contrast, Kumara had been rigorously training in the labyrinth and learning from stronger beings, making Orca-Aria stand no chance against her. Thus, Kumara achieved a smooth victory over her opponent, using only her 9-tail piercing strike without summoning the tail beasts of the 8 legions. Switching perspectives to Souei, his opponent was Arios, who had once been killed by Damrata and then resurrected and evolved after winning the Death Man-Body contest. Arios held the ultimate enchantment, Lord of Judgment, which was once Tatsuya Konda's ultimate skill, reclaimed by Michael and bestowed upon Arios. Consequently, Arios' combat style began to mimic Tatsuya Konda's. Like Orca-Aria, Arios was testing his new powers, toying with his opponents, Leon's Blue Knight Oxian and Misery's Lieutenant, Khan. Although Arios understood that bullying weaker foes was not commendable, he felt the need to explore the limits of his new abilities. Archdemon Khan, filled with resentment, vowed to remember Arios' arrogance and seek revenge upon his resurrection. For demons, death was merely a change in state. As long as their core remained intact, they could revive within a few years. Even if severely injured, they would inevitably return in a few hundred years, which was why Khan swore to exact vengeance. Here's a bit of additional context. To damage a demon's core, one must interfere with spirit particles. Particle disintegration, for example, could disrupt these particles. Without destroying the spirit particles, the infan, the smallest particles in this world, remained unaffected. While Arios' Lord of Judgment could achieve this effect, his lack of experience fighting non-human races meant he didn't know how to properly eliminate demons. Khan believed that playing dead would allow him to escape unscathed. At the critical moment when Arios was about to kill his two opponents, Souei arrived just in time, emerging suddenly from Arios' shadow and delivering what should have been a fatal blow. Predictably, Arios managed to dodge the attack, although he was still seriously injured. Having gained the power of the Seraphim, Arios' remarkable regenerative abilities quickly healed his wounds. Arios, despite his arrogance, was also cautious. He carefully engaged Souei, blocking his attacks and mimicking Tatsuya Kanda's fighting stance, holding a gun in his left hand and a sword in his right, gradually launching counterattacks. After a few exchanges, Arios realized that while their skills were evenly matched, he had the upper hand in strength, evident from Souei's retreating steps. Finally, the moment came. Arios exploited a flaw in Souei's defense and unleashed the most powerful attack from his Lord of Judgment, the Judgment Bullet, which could only be used once a day. Souei's body disintegrated upon impact. Witnessing this, Arios was convinced of his victory. However, he was mistaken. As Arios had concluded, he did have the upper hand in raw power, making it difficult for Souei to win head-on. But Souei never intended to fight Arios directly. As a dark shinobi, Souei was never bound by conventional notions of victory. No matter how skillful the battle, losing meant total defeat. Souei had appeared to be giving his all, but he had already split off a parallel existence. When Arios let his guard down, Souei executed his fatal move, Thousand Shadow Death. Shadows extended from all directions, enveloping Arios. In that instant, Souei used his dual swords to destroy Arios' heart, swiftly and decisively ending the battle. Switching to Rimuru's perspective, he was still observing the battlefield. Leon and his mentor Sylvia were locked in a stalemate. Their fighting styles and ultimate skills were very similar, and knowing each other's abilities had led to this impasse. Sylvia was aware that holding her ground without external help was a fortunate outcome. Noticing Rimuru watching the battlefield, Sylvia teased him, suggesting that if Rimuru had time to watch, he should come over and help her. But the truth is, Rimuru was also completely out of options. Rimuru was open about it, stating that he was also at a loss, which was why he decided to first observe the battles of others. Sylvia sarcastically remarked that while Rimuru claimed he had no extra strength left for help, he still had the energy to observe others. She had heard many stories about Rimuru from her daughter Elmesia. Although Rimuru seemed to lack common sense, the reality was even more surprising. Rimuru himself acknowledged that observing other battles while fighting was indeed unconventional. Sylvia then inquired whether Rimuru could defeat Feldway. Rimuru, while still engaging Feldway, honestly replied that he currently had no openings to exploit. Feldway scoffed at this and joined the conversation, remarking how Rimuru had the audacity to talk about openings while fighting him. He arrogantly questioned Rimuru's right to speak of such things. Rimuru, growing impatient, retorted that if Feldway had taken his finishing move head-on, he wouldn't be struggling so much. Feldway rebuked Rimuru, saying that if not for Rimuru's interference, his plan would have succeeded long ago. He also complained about Diablo constantly thwarting him. Rimuru quickly distanced himself from Diablo's actions. Feldway countered that as Diablo's master, Rimuru was responsible. Rimuru firmly maintained that he had only recently met Diablo, and was not accountable for his past actions, adamantly denying any unnecessary blame. In reality, the battle, though seemingly intense, revealed Rimuru's composure. Everyone understood that Rimuru was not fighting at full strength, using this confrontation to gather information for future victory. Feldway was likely doing the same. Sylvia's personality was also evident in this battle. Despite engaging fiercely with Leon and risking injury with any misstep, she managed to chat casually, showing her remarkable composure and focus. No matter what, the stalemate seemed unbreakable, giving Rimuru a headache about how to resolve it. Just then, Feldway's actions suddenly changed. Feldway stated that it was about time to retreat, as continuing the fight was pointless. Rimuru began to ponder. Strictly speaking, the current situation was unfavorable for Rimuru's side, with Benimaru being completely suppressed by Jahil. Since the chances of victory were slim, the enemy's retreat was the best possible outcome for Rimuru. Nevertheless, Rimuru didn't miss the chance to taunt Feldway, mocking him for being naive if he thought he could escape. Hearing this, Sylvia, who was fighting Leon, widened her eyes and gave Rimuru a look that clearly said, "What the hell were you doing?" However, Rimuru didn't care. The tougher the situation, the more he needed to use reverse psychology to confuse the opponent. This was the power of verbal sparring. Feldway responded by saying he had not only recruited Leon but also rooted out troublesome traitors and gauged Rimuru's strength. With such results, Feldway was already quite satisfied. Upon hearing this, Rimuru breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, Feldway was not the type to be easily provoked and angered. Handling such a personality was straightforward. Rimuru believed that as long as he showed a defiant attitude, Feldway would happily retreat. So, while Rimuru was inwardly eager for Feldway's retreat, he continued to provoke him verbally, calling him a coward. Rimuru then added that his comrades would soon arrive to support him, implying he understood Feldway's desire to flee. As he said this, Rimuru launched a fierce attack. Perhaps shaken by Rimuru's words, Feldway's sword momentarily slowed. Seizing the opportunity, Rimuru's Drago blade grazed Feldway's body, but Feldway remained unscathed. This was the first time Feldway had not blocked Rimuru's attack, yet it caused no damage. Clearly, this provided Seal with evidence that Feldway also possessed the castle guard skill. Feldway remarked that Rimuru, as Diablo's master, was even more annoying than Diablo. He warned that the next time they met, he would use overwhelming force to crush Rimuru. Rimuru retorted that Feldway had once again stolen his line. Rimuru keenly noticed that Feldway seemed to struggle against Diablo. So, Rimuru stated that next time he would have Diablo deal with Feldway. Feldway fell silent, and for a moment, Rimuru caught a glimpse of disdain on Feldway's face. Feldway, calling Rimuru truly annoying, then ordered Jahil and Leon to retreat with him. Although reluctant, Jahil agreed out of respect for Feldway. Seeing this, Rimuru felt relieved and prepared to end the battle. At this critical moment, Benimaru began to boast, taunting Jahil by saying he was just a step away from turning the tables and that failing to defeat Jahil meant he was not yet mature. Benimaru vowed to completely destroy Jahil next time. Rimuru was utterly speechless, staring at Benimaru in disbelief. He realized that he had set the tone with his own provocations, so he couldn't really complain. Sylvia, on the other hand, looked at Rimuru and Benimaru with incredulity. Rimuru now understood how Sylvia must have felt hearing his own bold claims earlier. Rimuru thought Benimaru's taunting was foolish and, from Sylvia's perspective, she probably thought Rimuru was just as foolish. Not only that, but Jahil, with his hot-headed and easily provoked nature, was furious and ready to attack. However, Feldway stopped him, saying that these were the cunning slime's tactics, and losing composure could turn a winning battle into a losing one. Hearing Feldway's words, Rimuru silently thanked him for the divine assist. It was the first time Rimuru felt grateful for Feldway's misunderstanding, which seemed to stem from Rimuru's usual behavior causing unnecessary caution. For the first time, Rimuru thought Feldway seemed like a decent guy. Thus, Feldway, Leon, and Jahil flew away from the scene. Rimuru and Benimaru, exhausted, collapsed to the ground. Unexpectedly, Benimaru remarked that Rimuru's provocation of Feldway in such a situation was a bit too much. Rimuru felt outmaneuvered, retorting that Benimaru had no right to say that, especially after his own rash actions. Benimaru explained that he was simply following Rimuru-sama's example, stating that if his lord didn't retreat, either would he. Moreover, Benimaru asserted that he might not have lost even if the fight continued. Seeing the confidence in Benimaru, Rimuru believed he was sincere. Meanwhile, Sylvia just stared blankly at the two fools before her, but Rimuru and Benimaru chose to selectively ignore her reaction. Switching to Vega's perspective, he did not consider himself defeated after fleeing from Ranga. His inability to reflect on his actions was a flaw, but on the other hand, not overthinking was a driving force behind Vega's continuous progress. Vega arrived at the battlefield where Kumara and Orca-Aria were fighting and hid to observe the situation. He soon witnessed the outcome. Orca-Aria suffered a fatal blow from Kumara's nine-tail piercing strike and was thrown near Vega's hiding spot. Vega was overjoyed, seeing this as a perfect opportunity to consume Orca-Aria. As someone who lacked a sense of camaraderie, Vega wouldn't consider saving his allies. He would sacrifice anyone if it benefited him. While devouring a companion might seem cruel to others, for Vega, with his tragic childhood, it was merely a survival instinct. As a result, Orca-Aria's power merged into Vega's flesh. Her mythical weapon transformed into a mythical-grade armor covering Vega's body, emitting a blood-red glow. Additionally, beast-like fangs and claws sprouted from Vega's hands, feet, elbows, and knees. Vega's transformation took a more ominous turn. Kumara, witnessing this, broke into a cold sweat. Ever since spotting Vega, Kumara had been on high alert. She didn't kill Orca-Aria but instead threw her away due to Vega's unsettling presence. The outcome was that Vega's strength increased significantly. In such intense warfare, quality far outweighed quantity. Kumara realized she had messed up and felt ashamed to face Rimuru-sama. Kumara pondered how to salvage the situation. After suffering consecutive defeats against Carrion and Frey, she no longer overestimated her abilities and understood that Vega was an opponent she couldn't face alone. This realization saved her life. Had Kumara rashly attacked, she would have been counter-killed and devoured, worsening the situation. By adopting a cautious stance, Kumara allowed for third-party intervention. Mai Furuki suddenly appeared on the battlefield, halting Vega's impending attack and announcing that Feldway-sama demanded an immediate retreat. Hearing this command, Vega complied, instinctively understanding that despite his newly gained power, he couldn't fully absorb it in a short time. Mai Furuki then swiftly took Vega away, effectively resolving Kumara's crisis. Mai Furuki's next destination was the scene of Arios' near-death. By this time, Arios' heart had been destroyed by Souei, but for the phantom race, losing the heart only affected their strength, not their life. Just as Souei was about to completely destroy Arios' core, he sensed danger and hastily retreated. Mai Furuki appeared with Vega and instantly whisked the dying Arios away. What truly concerned Souei was the brief appearance of Vega. With a single glance, Souei realized that Vega was growing stronger at an alarming rate. This differed significantly from what Souei's intelligence department had previously gathered about Vega. In this world, it was possible for beings to undergo significant transformations and grow stronger due to certain catalysts. Souei felt the need to understand what was happening to Vega. However, Mai Furuki's sudden appearance and disappearance made further investigation impossible. Souei keenly sensed something special about Mai Furuki. Misery's lieutenant, Khan, also noted that whether through magic or skills, spatial transfer typically required activation time. Mai Furuki's instant movement was something even the primordial demons couldn't achieve. This skill was highlighted as particularly significant in this part of the story, suggesting it would play a crucial role in aiding Rimuru in the future. Back to Souei, he was visibly displeased, not only because he failed to finish off Arios in time, but also because the enemy's successful escape meant their intelligence would inevitably be leaked, making future battles more challenging. Of course, Rimuru's side had also gathered important intelligence, so it was still a draw overall. Thus, with Feldway and his group retreating, the crisis in Golden City El Dorado was resolved. Alright, that's all for this video. The Battle of Golden City is the first battle of the Tenma Great War, and it's evident that both sides were mostly probing each other rather than fighting with their full strength. Feldway's character was prominently highlighted in this battle, showcasing his cautious nature. As for why Feldway chose to retreat, I personally believe that, as he mentioned, his goal was merely to find and control Leon, which he accomplished. Additionally, Feldway likely didn't have a surefire way to defeat Rimuru, and continuing the fight might have exposed his possession of the Lord of Justice. Thus, the cautious Feldway chose to retreat in time. Vega's character was also prominently displayed, laying the groundwork for his significant role in the upcoming Volume 20 and 21. This early development was necessary. The Tenma Great War triggers battles across almost all Demon Lord territories, so there will be many similar conflicts ahead. In our next episode, Rimuru's side would review this battle. Additionally, Rimuru would face Guy's strong dissatisfaction and complaints, and the secret dealings of Rain and Diablo would come to light. The next episode will be very funny and interesting. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.